Welcome back to the Bearded Hermit. In this week's video, I cut out the last two A-frame trusses for the first floor. After being gone for a week, the deer are back feeding, and I put up the final A-frame trusses on the first floor. After marking and cutting 27 of these posts in the last 2 months, boy, I am happy the first floor is all done, so I can take a break and move on to other projects on the A-frame build. I'm starting to have nightmares about drawing lines on posts, triple checking all my marks, only to find out I cut them too short and wake up in a cold sweat. I'm also happy that these are the last two 13-foot beams that have to go up on the A-frame build. They are almost too heavy for me to move around and lift into position. On the second floor, these overhead beams will only be about 5 feet long, much more manageable. I have a fire going in the workshop today, but I need to keep the door open for ventilation to keep the chainsaw fumes down. This keeps the temps in here kinda low, but much warmer than outside. I also have my dog Khan out here to keep me company. Throwing my small cutoffs into the fire keep it going, as long as I keep working fast enough. Working with a chainsaw is more tiring than you'd think. After a while, my back starts to cramp up, my arms start to feel like wet noodles, and my hands lose all grip strength. It's important to know when to take a break and not hurt yourself. I'll use this chair to save my back when the angle of cut allows me to. I also need to sweep up after cuts, especially around the stove. A spark jumping out and landing on dry sawdust would be a disaster. After checking the fire, I get back to marking the posts. I bought just enough of these 14-foot posts, and if I cut one wrong, it's a very expensive mistake to buy another and have it delivered. So I take my time and triple check everything. I'm cutting about 14 inches off the end of these posts. They will be saved for future use. Not sure exactly what for yet, but I always seem to find a good use for everything in time. Who knows, maybe one day they'll make some nice heat in the workshop stove. That's the one thing about a chainsaw. It will always remind you when it needs gas and oil. Chainsaw maintenance is very important. This one is due for a good cleaning, and also the chain will need to be sharpened. Another thing about chainsaw safety is to never hold the saw so your hand is away from the safety bar in the front. If the saw kicks back and your hand is not there to trip the safety, well, let's just say you don't want your nickname to be Stumpy. While cutting out these posts, I've tripped the safety bar at least a dozen times. Not because the saw bucked back at me, but because of the angle I was cutting at made my hand push the bar, and the chain stops moving. I just need to pull the safety bar back into place and continue working. After finishing up these 6 posts, I saw the deer coming over for food. So I took a break and gave them some corn. The deer have not been around for about a week, ever since I heard a wolf howling one night, really close. Con and I was out to pee, and the wolf was howling only about 200 yards away. That was too close for me. So I howled back at him, and we went inside. The next morning, we were walking up this road here, and I saw the wolf tracks in the snow. The paw prints were about 2 times the size of Con's prints, and he's a 74-pound pit mix. From that day on, the deer were gone. This is the first day I've seen them back. I'm hoping the wolf didn't get one of them, but who knows? I'm thinking that it was a lone wolf and that he moved on. For a week I haven't seen a track or heard a howl. There is one really tame deer in this group. She's the first one to come up to me as I put the food out. She was born here on the property years ago down by the lake. And every year since, she comes back and has her babies. Last spring she only had 1 baby, but even before it lost its spots, it turned up missing. One day the fawn was here, and the next it was gone. Most likely to coyotes. I was very happy to see this mama deer come up to me today, first in line. It had snowed just a little bit last week, so I cleaned it up real quick. There's supposed to be warmer weather in the next few days, so I'm hoping what little snow remains on the subfloor will all melt away. I grab the tractor and load up the first 3 posts. And drive them down to the build site. I have 7 of these A-frame trusses up with only 2 more to go. So the framework gets moved down another 4 feet to repeat the process. And I'm running in the rest of these screws on the bottom plate. Standing on this subfloor, I'm only about 3 to 4 feet off the ground, but the view is amazing from up here. I can't wait to see the view from the 2nd story deck. Next, I get to lifting the overhead beam into place. As I said before, it's almost too heavy for me to handle by myself. But these are the last 2 in the house that need to be put up. Trust me when I say it's a burden off my shoulders. They were the one thing I was worried about the most, having to lift them myself. With a light snow coming down and the temps falling, I wanted to finish this A-frame up and get inside. I put some screws into the joint and add the temporary bracing. The next day looked about the same. Cold, gray, and a few snowflakes falling. But I get started on the last A-frame. All the steps get repeated. But this time, after it's up, I can put a horizontal 2x4 at the top to tie everything together. Ah, the last beam. So satisfying. Not all of these 6x6 posts fit together perfectly. Some are a little twisted and don't fit exactly. And some of my cuts are a little off. Using a chainsaw to make all my cuts is not an exact science. When the cabin is all done, I'll use some caulk to fill in any gaps or bad cut lines. And there goes that 12-foot 2x4 to connect everything together. Everything got more stable once it was in place. I put up a second 2x4 on the other side, but I had some technical difficulty. My memory card was full, and it didn't get recorded.
Well, I'm out on the A-frame today, and the sun decided to come out. And it's about 33 degrees out. Nice warm February day. I just finished up the last A-frame truss on the first floor, and I put up from end to end a 2x4 on each side connecting all the A-frames. Next, I'm going to be putting horizontal rows of 2x4s every 2 feet all the way down the north roof line and the southern roof line.
And there you have it. 9 A-frame trusses on the first floor. The first 2 trusses on the right are green because they'll be in the weather over the deck. And the other 7 are untreated because they will be inside the house protected. This is the end of the video. Please stay safe out there, and remember, life can be good sometimes.